Everyone, welcome to the Bmore Me Speaker series. This is the first one, the launch one for this particular school year. Thank you all for joining us on this winning Wednesday. My name is Rashad State, and I'll be the moderator, but I will not be the one you'll hear from majority of the time. Again, the speaker series is a chance for our students to see themselves and learn from experts across the city. This is the opportunity where we connect intergenerational influencers, change agents, and makers, those that uphold the beauty of being more in Baltimore. And now young people get to directly involve and speak and listen directly to some of the change agents that have been born, raised, and groomed themselves and their purpose in our own respective community in our beloved city. So again, you all, welcome to Bmore Me Speaker Series. We have a wonderful panel today. We have a great student and moderator, MC. We have some video contents, and we have some exciting activities throughout today's game. I hope that you all are ready and excited to be here. And let's begin. What you all are about to see, or what we're about to do, is show you all a video of an introduction of what Bmore Me is. It will be a short blurb video that will showcase some of our young people and our 8th graders, as well as our toy finalist and educator, Miss Teresa Bruce. So let's continue on. Let's continue to drop our comments in the chat, and let's sit back and let's enjoy the video of Bmore Me.
Hi, everyone. My name is Teresa Bruce, and I am one of the Bmore Me curriculum writers, as well as a 2020 Teacher of the Year finalist. Welcome to our 2021 school year Bmore Me Speaker series. Today, you will hear from some amazing panelists about the importance of using your voice, identity, and advocacy. As rising leaders in our city schools believe that it's important that your voices are included in conversations about the future of our city. That being said, I am so excited for your experience here today. Enjoy.
Awesome. I hope that you all enjoyed this positive and uplifting message from our educator, Mrs. Teresa Bruce, who actually helped create some of this powerful curriculum that you'll be learning throughout the year. It has come the time where I want to take the time to introduce whom you will be hearing from today. Without further ado, I want to introduce our student moderator, who will be introducing you all from who our panelist is today. We have a wonderful student moderator. Let's give a virtual round of applause for Nina Markland. Nina Markland. Nina, how are you? How's everything going? Unmute yourself, Nina. Can we get Nina unmuted? All right. All right, as we come on, while we're trying to get our student moderator on the screen, I'm gonna take the time out to introduce our moderator. We're gonna be talking to some great panelists today, some change agents throughout Baltimore City. And some of our panelists that you all will have the pleasure of hearing and learning from is Miss Dionne Joyner-Weems. She's the president of Advocacy Group, brand builder, social innovator, storyteller behind My Bmore campaign, born and raised in West Baltimore. I know if you all been on Instagram, you all been on Facebook, and you seen this hashtag My Bmore, this is one of our content creators, visionaries, and leaders, Miss Dionne Joyner-Weems. Pleasure and thank you. We're excited to hear of all the great things that you've done and how you helping construct the positive narrative of Baltimore. Followed by my good brother, Mr. Deray Mckesson, one of our pivotal leaders that is on the ground and influencing policy across the country, co-founder of Campaign for Zero, activist, author, and leading voice in the Black Lives Matter movement, born and raised in Baltimore City, has been on the front lines since the beginning. And then we have my great sister, great friend of mine, Brittany Young, CEO and founder of B360, entrepreneur, STEM expert, motivational speaker, and look to carve out in a new lane in Baltimore, tapping into our interests of motor sports, dirt bikes, and other culture interests. Grew up in Baltimore watching dirt bike riders in Drew Hill Park. And now, without further ado, we have our student moderator, Miss Nina Markland. She's a senior at Baltimore Poly Institute. Nina, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm well, and I'm excited to step back from the mic and pass it to you so you can rip the stage out, because I know you got us some great questions you want to tag on to our leaders and our panelists today, some that I've met before, but I'll love to sit back and see how. So before we go further, Nina, you take the mic. I wanted to ask you one or two questions. As a student, what are some ways that help shape the story of Baltimore? As a student, what are some ways that you have helped shape the story of Baltimore?
Well, me living in Baltimore, I am just one part of a giant story. I am in different things to help my community and just help out in general. It's not too many things that are like, yes, I can tell you I did this and it's just shaped everybody. But I think as a student and being a student in Baltimore City, each year I have a different role. So this year it might not be such a big role that I can help everyone, but me going to school and logging in is just helpful to my teachers, helpful to myself so I can get my education. And when I do get my education, I can grow up and be an amazing thing. So I think that it's a personal type of help with Baltimore City, but it's nothing like too big.
I love it. I think that's a powerful answer in your response, the self-accountability of self, of you living in your purpose, doing what's expected of you. And if everyone does their role and do it effectively, we'll all be in a better place. So thank you for that. That is very shows the wisdom that you have at such a young age. Continue to hold yourself accountable and to lead with that. So without further ado, I think with that being said, I'm gonna hold myself accountable and pass you the mic. So it's up to you. Let's go into digging into the crates and minds of our panelists. Nina, I pass the mic to you. Let's take it on.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mr. Stanton. So I want to first thank all of our panelists for being here, taking the time out to just be on a panel. I'm very excited to meet you guys because your bios are really amazing. I do want to let you know for this first part, everyone will only have a minute to answer each question. Since we're like not a time crunch, but yeah, everyone will only have a minute. So it's just the introduction. First, our first question is, what in 60 seconds, who are you? Who are you as a person? What do you identify as? I guess Miss Dionne Joyner can start.
Hey, first, thank you so much for having me here. Who am I? 60 seconds, I tell everyone I am Baltimore, right? Product of West Baltimore, Sandtown, Winchester. When I say I am Baltimore, I am what you don't expect, because there are so many misperceptions about our city. So I'm what you wouldn't expect, you need to, and when we show who we are, we make a statement. So that's Baltimore. It's a boldness, it's a fierceness, it's a hustle, it's a grind, it's a history maker, it's a line stepper, it's a person that speaks out. Yeah, Baltimore is all that in a bag of chips, and I like to consider myself a part of that.
Well, thank you so much. Mr. Deray, who are you?
Hey, I'm Deray. I'm from Baltimore. I grew up Poplar Grove and Pressbury. I still live in the city, have lived in a couple of places across the country, and I consider myself an activist and an organizer. I spend most of my time dealing with issues of policing across the country. You know, the police kill about 1,100 people a year. We work to make sure that that number eventually will get to zero. I was one of the original protesters in Ferguson, have been in a lot of cities across the country, helping people think about what solutions look like. I also used to teach 6th grade math, and teaching was one of the most powerful things I could ever do. And I also worked in the Baltimore City Public Schools, helping to lead human resources and human capital, so the adults had everything they need to support young people. I'm super proud of that, and I consider myself an activist and organizer and an educator.
I really appreciate you for being out or coming out today. And finally, Miss Brittany Young, who are you? Oh, she's muted.
The host needs to unmute her.
I'm trying. It's not letting me. All right, it should be unmuted.
It's Mercury retrograde and all that good stuff. First and foremost, just excited to be on the panel with Deray and Dionne. I'm big fans as well. I'm a Baltimore girl through and through, similar to what Dionne was saying. And that's really what it's about. Like, Baltimore gives me the most strength, the most courage, the most audacity, the most trouble. And I think the brilliance is built out of the city because we are a lot of times in conditions where we have less resources, but that creates people like you, people like me, who think of solutions. And so that's me in Baltimore, just like the epicenter of all ingenuity and brilliance that's to come.
Love that. So for my next question, how did you get here? Well, most people would say I was born here, but how did you get to where you were for you to stay in Baltimore? I guess we could start with Miss Brittany.
For me, I always tell people I'm born, raised, never leaving, because where else would I go? So I've traveled a lot. I've got to be outside of Baltimore, but this is home, and I could never imagine me being somewhere else. And so I think, again, my foundation has been rooted in the promise to my grandparents. Both sides of my family are from like rural Virginia. They moved to Baltimore to like escape like sharecropping and like the South. And the promise of Baltimore was like a freedom, a new space. My grandmother's first voted in the 70s when they moved here as well. And so that's a part of what keeps me, is just making sure that I give and make sure Baltimore gives back the promise of making sure I'm free and people after me are free. And then again, when I think about the best, I think about our accents. I think about, again, just like knowing kids and people who look like me. And I don't think I can get that experience from anywhere else. So how I got here is on the backs of my ancestors, but how I'm going to stay is because I see a lot of like potential in people like you, and that gives me hope. And that makes me want to keep helping to make Baltimore better and to keep showing people why it's the best place to be.
I love it. I love it. Miss Dionne, if you would answer, please.
So Brittany, we're gonna have to get together virtually. So I mean, you know, it's funny because I was thinking, Dad, if my grandmother was here, she's 87, lives in South Carolina, where my family's from, you know, from the South. And she always says, Dionne, my knees are rusty from praying for you, right? So I know first and foremost, like most of us here, we are here on the backs of our families, of our ancestors' prayers. So I claim that 110%. Another reason I'm sitting here across from your beautiful face is because of my mother. Like, I got here because my mother knew the system. I'm gonna be really, really honest, because I know that I'm talking to Baltimore City school students. Based on my zip code, there were certain schools, certain programs, certain resources that I would not have had access to because I was from that 21225, right? So my mother knew that. So, you know, she's an innovator. We're using my uncle's address. Why? Because my mother was determined that my brother and I were going to get the best. I'm here because of the lessons that were drilled in me before first grade. One, Dionne, you're going to have to work 10 times as hard as the people around you to probably get 10 times less. So I went in knowing that I had to hustle. My mother actually told me not to tell people our address, right? And it wasn't because she wasn't proud of where we were from. She knew that we will be judged based on our zip code. So because I resented the message that sent, it made me determined that not only will I jump up and down to let you know where I'm from, I'm going to bring that sense of pride so you'll never feel like you have to hide that again. I don't even know if I answered it fully. I got caught up in my mother, but that's why I'm sitting here with you today.
Thank you. I really do appreciate it. And finally, Mr. Deray, so sorry.
Deray's right.
How did you get here?
Yeah, Deray's right. So, you know, like all of us, I'm the product of a lot of adults who believed in me and cared about me, who weren't just my family members, but There were teachers, there were coaches, there were after school people, a ton of adults who poured into me and really cared and believed. You know, both of my parents were addicted to drugs. My mother left when I was 3. My father raised us alongside my great grandmother and my grandmother, my grandfather, aunts and uncles. And if not for that big community of people who poured love into me and supported me, I wouldn't be here today. And that's just true. The other thing is that I took a lot of risks. And I think that that's true of Brittany and Dionne. That like we had a passion and a big idea, and people, not everybody believed in it, but we believed in it. And that actually was enough for us. And we followed that idea to do what we do today. I remember when I first decided to go to St. Louis, to Ferguson, people were like, this is silly. The protests aren't a real thing. You should go inside. This is not the way to make change. And now everybody's a protester, essentially. Like if people understand that like this is the way that you bring about change. But in those early days, I remember that, the first night I got tear gassed, that was one of those you all should go home nights. People were like, this is not what you do. I remember when I got arrested for the first time, people were like, this is not what you do. And now again, it's like, protest is the thing. So I think that what is common about the three of us on the panel is that we took a risk. We followed a big idea that other people might not have believed in, but we believed in it.
Thank you. That one thing that stood out for me was taking risk. I really do appreciate you guys coming out and just speaking up and about everything that you have done. My next question is, what does Baltimore mean to you? Now, the whole taking risk thing, I am going to say this right now. I am not afraid to leave. I do love where I'm from, but sometimes you have to leave to come back and see everything that you can change. Because if you just stay here and say, oh, well, this is what I'm comfortable with, you would never take that risk and learn to be uncomfortable. So what does Baltimore mean to you? Anyone can start. It doesn't matter.
I'll start this time since they took the hits and started last time. I'll say Baltimore to me is raw, it's honest, it is unabashed, unashamed, has a lot of grit, right? Like a lot of resilience. And just people who care about community. It's just I've always thought about Baltimore as sort of embodying what it means that we are a community, that people watch each other, that's actually a part of what it means to be in the work is to believe in each other. I did leave. I lived in Minneapolis and St. Louis and in New York City. And every time I come back home to Baltimore, I'm reminded of just how beautiful the city is. I'm in Mount Vernon now, and that's a very different part of Baltimore than I grew up in. But it still has that beauty and the charm. And it's only when I left that I understood why people called it Charm City. I was I get it. I totally understand the charm. But when I was in it, every day as a kid, I didn't really understand it all that well. But I've always loved Baltimore for its grittiness and for its sort of unabashed commitment to honesty. Those are the things that really ring true to me when I think about our city.
I can go next. For me, Baltimore is a double-edged sword. It's again a place that birthed me, makes me feel comfortable, but I also know it's a place that can kill me too, in a good way and a bad way, right? It can kill your dreams, it can kill your passion projects, it can cause turmoil, and you legit have to worry about somebody also killing you as well. And so for me, it's just it's a thing that you love, but that can also cause you to self-destruct. And so it's just trying to figure out a balance between the two of you love this city, you see so much potential in it, that it's giving you all the tools to make you better. And at the same time, you realize too, it can be seen as a battleground, and how a lot of people can get swallowed up in the system of Baltimore and be a martyr. So me having to force myself to not be a martyr, but being really conscious of the way that we're reshaping the city is important now, because if we don't, we'll just keep getting swallowed up. So for me, it's the double-edged sword of you love it. Sometimes the city does not love you, not like the people, but the city itself is kind of not conducive sometimes to growth. So I definitely understand people wanting to leave. And like you said, when you leave, you can take a seat back and realize all that Baltimore has and how you can make it grow. So that's what it is for me, is the best in both, the best and the worst at the same time.
Both Deray, Brittany have said it perfectly. It's funny, Nina, I wanted to say when you had talked about, I'm not afraid to leave, because when I graduated from Morgan State, the idea was that I was going to move to New York. Like, everyone knew that about Dionne. And the way that God worked out my path, I didn't. But I won't say that that's a bad thing. Like, I dropped my earring, this exact one that I'm wearing. I dropped this earring last night in my bedroom, right? And I look straight down because I hear the little clink, clink, clink. And then I can't see it. So what I decided to do was to step back, right? Because if I'm able to step back, your perspective changes. You're actually able to see so much more. And that is what Baltimore needs. We need people that have different perspectives. Like when Deray is going around and visiting and staying different places, it's about coming back, right? It's about bringing that learning. It's bringing those resources back to the city so that we can grow. So both have their place. What does Baltimore mean to me? I often say it's like when you're in science and you have an experiment, and with every experiment you have the control. And I look at Baltimore as literally, we represent all of the world. I won't curse, Nakia, I will not curse. I'm doing well so far. Baltimore literally represents all of the world's ills. And we also reflect its triumphs. Like we have it both. We have systemic racism, we have innovation. You get what I'm saying? So my thought is, if we can impact change here, even if it's a ripple, what we do here changes the world, because that learning can be applied to any major urban city across the United States of America, because that's what Baltimore represents, which is why we're always on the tip of someone's tongue, because we really do. You can pull us for every example, what they choose to pull us for, what they choose to pull us for. That's why you have to ask the reason why. Why is it negative? Because if we know our power, damn. Oh, damn doesn't curse, right?
It does. It counts. It counts. But they
sorry, Tina. All right, sorry.
We've been teaching.
Okay.
It's fine.
Can I add to that also?
Oh, go ahead, Brittany.
Yeah, I was gonna say too, with that point, like I think what you're touching on is too, Baltimore's like the last battleground of Black cities, right? So we know us in Detroit are the last Black cities, free people with the same great promise. And I think that's what people are afraid of, is the culture, the uniqueness. Baltimore had the most free Black slaves at one time.
Yes.
How we
talk about it.
How we've overcame. So that's what Baltimore represents too. Again, like that promise of our ancestors and the things that we get hit with over and over again, whether it's red line, whether it's lead paint poisoning, whether gentrification, is because people are afraid of the potential that Black Baltimoreans have, because we're kind of showing that we can still keep fighting. But that's what the opposition is that people hate to see two cities being left and one also be taken out.
Yes. Oh, yes. I have so much hope for today. This is conversation has started off really nice. I'm loving this. Okay. Well, goodness. So this next section is for specific panelists. So first we're going to start off with Miss Dionne. The my #Baltimore or #My Baltimore marketing campaign that you lead changed it changed so many people's view of Baltimore. Your work with Visit Baltimore brought millions of visitors, and we really needed that. So my first question is, how do you view identity, and what identities hold on to you?
So identity to me is what you stand for. I often tell people, like, my name is Dionne Joyner-Weems. It's like a Tribe Called Quest. You got to say it all together. And I say it in every room that I come into, is consistency, right? What's funny is that this is how things happen, right? In 2015, Freddie Gray, Baltimore's uprising, Baltimore actually using its voice to say enough is a effing enough, right? So that happens in 2015. I'm actually coming back from a conference in New York. I've been away for 3 days. I'm on the train looking through my cell phone, and I'm seeing 25-year-old Black man, West Baltimore, police surveillance. I'm like, what is going on? Then I arrived at Penn Station and saw what was happening. And I knew for a fact, tomorrow morning, the news is going to have a field day from making my people look like monsters. And it was the power of the individual. I refused to let that happen. I didn't know what I could really do, but I'm like, look, I know that I work in a space, I'm the storyteller for the city of Baltimore, right? So I'm gonna tell it. I'm not gonna wait for the media to dictate what our narrative is. I'm gonna tell you who we are. And it's not just me. It was this thing of, look, Deray, Brittany, they were doing this work long before media started to pay attention to the struggles and challenges in the city of Baltimore. And there are a million of other people like them. So if we can get them to use this hashtag, knowing the power of social media, over 700 million people use Instagram every day. All right, then that looks like I can battle with CNN now. You're giving me something to play with. All right, then I'm going to show you my city. Not only am I going to show you our struggles, I'm going to show you Brittany at the center of it, working with our dirt bike riders, in the middle of talking about changing policy, because there's beauty in that too, right? Why are we going to spend, so at the end of the day, identity, I make it really clear. There's a quote that I use often, until the lion learns to speak, the story will always glorify the hunter. So I realized Baltimore is a city of lions. We got to start speaking. We got to get bold. We got to light that fire, let people see us. And if we stand in our truth, my thing with the passing of the Honorable Elijah Cummings, what I loved about him is that no matter what room he was in, I still saw Baltimore. No matter what room he was in, I still heard how my uncle and my grandfather spoke. And that sent a message to me that no matter where I go, I'm going to stand in my truth. And that's your identity, right? So the idea was how I viewed myself was being more than what people thought of me, which is the same thing that I think about the city of Baltimore, right? So that's what I identify with every morning that I wake up, that all we have is our name. But that's all we have. So make it worth something. I'm sorry, Nakia, I'm getting really passionate right now. I'm going to kick it on over. Deray, go ahead, Deray.
No, this is specifically for you. This is your question.
Oh, sorry. Well, so here's because I get upset because when we talk about the hashtag My Be More, people are like, a hashtag's not going to save the city. Our Black men are dying. Hashtag. I'm like, duh. I never said that a hashtag was going to change the world. But if it changed the way that we saw ourselves, isn't that a start? Isn't that a start? So we went from 500 people sharing their story, right, to over 300,000. Destinations have been call me still, Dionne, how in the world were you able to get a city to do that in like less than a year? I was like, because I didn't do anything. Baltimore, that lets you know the power of the people in Baltimore. They have something to say. That's all. What you're seeing is Baltimore speaking. And whatever platform that I have to get that voice out, I'm going to use it until the day I die.
Yes. I love the fact that you are open in our community and you have talked about it, because there are probably some students in here listening, trying to figure out how they can start, where they fit in, and how they can use their identity to help the world or help their city. My next question is, how does your identity show up in your marketing work? You did mention some things, but is it something something bigger than your identity, or is it just me, like I'm my work?
So for me, first, I didn't know that we were going to hit back-to-back questions. So I'm gonna keep flowing, right? How to use identity. So here's the thing. I consider myself a storyteller because that's what my mother was. My mother read to us early. Like she did not graduate from college, but my mother knew the power of education. So she drilled it. Like I knew the theme song from A Different World. Like she had us repeating it over and over and over again. So through my marketing work, I think what I've heard from people is that they feel a passion, right? They feel a sense of authenticity, truth. The Audacity group was literally, I created a brand shop so I could literally work with the people that inspire me most to help get their stories out. Because unfortunately, you'll find that the people that are doing the hard work, the really hard work, they don't have time to think about marketing, PR, social media. I'm trying to keep a family in their home, right? I don't care about Instagram right now. That's not popping. There's a mother that just lost her son, right? So when you understand those differences, I was like, well, my power is the fact that I love to talk. I'm very passionate about things that mean something to me. And my idea is you don't have to search to know what your purpose in life is. I can tell you, Nina, your purpose in life is to use the gifts that God gave you to be of service to others, period. Right? So I'm a storyteller, and I use my gift of storytelling to be of service to the people around me that are doing good, period. So that is what shows through my marketing work, because it really is my foundation. It's what keeps me going to do this work.
And I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Your stories are going to go very far, especially how small Baltimore is.
No.
Baltimore we will carry your stories from now till God comes.
Let me tell you something, burning bridges, Baltimore is so small, right? I know I see Brittany like laughing at it, but just to let you know, be careful in the way that you interact with people. Who you see going up are the same people that you see coming down. And in this city, word travels fast. So make sure whatever it is that you're saying, you believe it. You've got the receipts to back it up, and you're firm in it. So yeah, that was a digression.
Okay. Well, thank you so much.
Okay.
Next is Mr. Deray. I have a couple questions for you. You have been a prominent presence and voice in some of the most critical causes for Black Americans, not only in Baltimore, but throughout the world. So how do you define being an activist, and what are some roles of activism?
Yeah, so I think that the key part of activists, right, is that activists take action. It's that simple. So what organizers do is organizers help get groups of people to take action around specific things that'll transform bad systems from being systems that hurt us to systems that heal us. And activists are intimately involved in that. They are the people who go out in the street, who testify, who make the phone calls. Like, the activists do the work. And I think that there is room for everybody, because Lord knows there are enough problems going around. So, you think about Baltimore, it's like we have problems with addiction and housing and incarceration, education, poverty. There's enough work to be doing. So part of our work as organizers, people who get groups of people who help people understand the power they have, is to give people concrete things they can do. One of the things that's interesting about the 2014 protests versus today, the 2020 protests, is I think after 2014, there were a lot of people who wanted to learn more. They were like, okay, I need to read somewhere. I need to see what's going on with the police. People knew the police were terrorists in their own neighborhood. They just didn't know it across the country. In 2020, people are like, I get it. I don't need to see another video. I don't need to read another essay. I want to know what to do to stop it. Like, that is, I think, where a lot of people are. And activists do the work of stopping it. Organizers create the containers, like get people together and point them in the right direction, or help them discover or uncover the right direction for themselves.
Okay. Well, that gives me a clearer view, because at first I didn't really know the difference. I was just like, I know they do something, but it was never like clear to me and what really goes on. And my last question, what are you advocating for now? Like, how do you deal with criticism, especially in this time of where people always want to share their opinion, especially towards your work, if they don't agree? So how do you deal with criticism?
I got a tough skin. I think that I think all of us on the panel have to have a tough skin, because people definitely criticism. Sometimes people are really sort of unkind in the way that they are critical, and a lot of people are just misinformed about it. I spend much of my time around the police. So the police in the state of Maryland, Baltimore County Police actually killed more people last year than any other jurisdiction in the state of Maryland. It wasn't the city of Baltimore. When we look at SWAT team deployments, the SWAT team in PG County actually does more home raids and searches than Baltimore City. Baltimore City is actually fourth on the list. So it's Prince George's County, Montgomery County, Anne Arundel County, then the city of Baltimore. So, you know, it's one of those things where so much of our work is pointing people in the right direction around the data, helping people understand what is true and what's not true, and then helping people think about solutions. We organize in a three-part way. We always do, there's a really big problem. The problem is close to you and you can do something about it. That is like the way that we organize, helping you understand there's a problem, which is what a lot of people do. A lot of people do step one really well. Helping people understand the problem is close to them, harder, and helping people understand there's a solution is really hard for a lot of organizers. So that's what we train and do. So when people tell me they're not gonna vote because they've never, you know, voting has never impacted their life, I'm like, you know, in Baltimore, you definitely know somebody who's had some proximity to the criminal justice system, or a judge made a decision about them or their family members, or they needed treatment and couldn't get it. Like people who were elected made all those decisions. The judges are elected. The people who are deciding where money goes around drug treatment, those people are elected. They're like, you just don't know how the elected people have impacted your life, but they certainly have impacted your life. So we spend a lot of time helping people understand those things so that they realize like it's a game to make you feel like you don't have power. Like you actually have way more power than the system will ever want you to understand.
I'm support Deray's message. Go ahead, Deray. Keep flowing. Keep flowing.
So that's it.
Okay, thank you so much. I really do appreciate the stories that you all are telling. And our last storyteller is Miss Brittany Young. So through B360 and you are merging like a STEM education through dirt bike culture, I'm correct, in Baltimore? Okay. So how does recognizing your own agency play a role in that?
I would say it wasn't recognizing my agency, but the agency of like riders and the people that's close to the problem. So like me, even though I'm from Baltimore, I didn't say, hey, this is Brittany about to tackle a problem about dirt bike riding. It was, hey, it's Brittany who has resources and a voice. How can I lend my hand to riders to build their own like voice and activate it? So we did with agency was making sure that riders are at the forefront of the conversation, but also like our model. So all of our classes are taught by dirt bike riders. I went to dirt bike riders when we first got started, as well as like students and like politicians and the police, just to make sure that the riders felt a voice, but they also gave us like permission to move forward. So I would say the agency that I have is just really being a connector and recognizing that it's not a problem that I'm solving, but it's a problem that I'm helping people realize the secret sauce to solving a problem is by having the people close to the problem at the table and to elevate their voices to make sure that they know that they don't need to be saved. They just need a catalyst, or they just need to see how brilliant they already were. So that's like our agency side, is just making sure like the riders have the voice and it's the loudest. And that we continue to like advocate to make sure that they can be felt and heard, and most importantly paid and compensated for their time, because the agency is theirs and they need to own their own culture, their own style, and I just lend my voice to do so.
That's great. What are your dreams for how your work can change the city?
Going back to agency again, I think as Black Baltimoreans, kind of what I was talking about before, we are seeing our city getting gutted out. And so we always have to keep wondering what's left for us. Dirt bike riding is probably controversial, not only, you know, the politics and legal ramifications, but because dirt bike riders typically are like Black men and boys who ride not just in Baltimore, but in every major city across the US that looks like Baltimore, people ride dirt bikes. And so when I think about, again, what Dionne was saying, if it can work in Baltimore, it can work anywhere. And that's kind of what I want. I want to be able to see a space facility for dirt bike riders right here in our city, where people are doing events, taking classes, making money, monetizing the event style, repairing, riding dirt bikes in a safe and closed environment. And us being able to take that same model to Cleveland, Miami, Detroit, Chicago, it can go on and on and on, are really just showing again the issues in Baltimore, while they can be trivial, they can also be solved right here directly with us and the things that we're solving in this city can be used as a model and replicated all over the country, because if it can work in Baltimore, it can work anywhere. So I think my dream for change is just really the city embracing more of its natural talent. So embracing people like me, people like you. When they see me on this panel, they should also see dirt bike riders, but not any different. And wanting more agency to come from the voices of community members, and wanting to be at the forefront of conversations with community members, and really just wanting to make sure that people are not coming to save Baltimore, but people are really just lending their resources to lend a hand to elevating who we already are, because we already have all the solutions and ideas.
Thank you. I cannot wait to see your dream go as far as the eye can see.
Thanks.
This question is for everyone. It doesn't matter who starts, but what advice do you have for the students watching and students in general for sharing their voice, for people who are afraid to step up and use their voice for any dream that they might have? Mr. Deray, or yeah, you could go first. Oh, he's muted. Hold on.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. So I would say that, we need more people helping to dream about what the city can be, right? Like more people saying, what does a great class look like? What does a great school look like? And we need young people to start to help us envision that so we can build it. What would a safe community, what would be if a community was safe to you, if you felt super safe, what would be in your community? If you felt healthy all the time, what would it like? We got to do that is really important, that like young people, the beauty of it is that like you haven't been jaded probably, hopefully, by the system that, when we get older, we're like, okay, this is hard. But a lot of young people still have a lot of hope and optimism, and that's actually really powerful. So what I would say is that like you should be the people dreaming about what does safety look like without the police? What does the best school look like? What would the best classroom look like? What would you like to learn in class that you are not being taught? Like putting those things out so that we understand them and that people can act on them is more important than you'll ever know.
Thank you. Ms. Brittany, any advice from you?
Similar. Especially when being met with pushback, again, like most of these school students, I also never listen to people. And I would say carry that. If I still listen to people today, I would not be here and I would not be talking to you about the work that we do. So when you're met with pushback, just make sure, again, you're grounded in like your authentic voice. And you're grounded too in like the network community that supports you. And my advice to any person is always lean towards the people that support you. And I know that can be a hard thing because we can always hear about, people who don't like us, who don't support us, who challenge us. But when we learn to switch all of that off and go to the love side of people that genuinely like want the best for us, our voice only gets stronger. And I look back at like movement building, especially in the city. We saw it in the Freddie Gray uprising, and then we also saw it recently with like the protests of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. And for me, what was very like eye-catching, but warmed me, but kind of hurt me too, was that those were movements being led by students your age, right? So the Freddie Gray uprising right there in Mondawmin was kids. And that's why I say it's like, again, the best in both, the best and the worst at the same time, because no kid should have to lead a movement for people to listen. But it also made me proud because I saw that was the last straw, and it also activated a lot of people my age to make sure that you all don't continue to be on the front lines. And then two, this year, seeing like the youth protests, that was also very beautiful to see, again, how strong your voices are, where you all came together to organize to make sure people continue to listen. So I would say don't worry about people not listening to you all, because I think now more than ever, especially Gen Zs and Gen Z's A, like y'all have asserted y'all voices very loud and proud. And our generation is now just making sure we have y'all backs. And so you can know that you do have allies and advocates that are working to make sure your voice continue to grow. And again, if people don't listen, it doesn't matter, because do what you need to do to get the job done.
Damn. And finally, Miss Dionne, any advice from you?
Nina, that ain't even right. I'm gonna let you know that right now. I'm not even right.
I'm so sorry.
So, because Deray and Brittany really did close it out, so I'll go in a different direction and say that when the world gets me down, which actually happens more often than not, and I don't think people are as honest about that, I turn to James Baldwin, right? So I would encourage anyone who's not familiar with his work, go to YouTube and pull up videos. There is one phrase that he has, that people rarely challenge the assumptions they are given. Mm-hmm. So to understand it, before I used to walk into a room and feel like everyone around me knows so much more than I do, right? Which means that I would second guess whatever the idea that came to me, I wouldn't say it, right? Because obviously the people in here have got to be smarter than me. I beg of you, if anyone is feeling that, I know it can be difficult, but to take that and put it on the side, okay? You have literally been given everything that is required for the situation and challenge in front of you. It is a guarantee. So James Baldwin is big for me. Nina Simone, if you want to know how to tell the world, back off, no one can tell it like Nina Simone can tell it, okay? So have some people in your arsenal, some music to listen to. I'm a big, Epic fan here in Baltimore, so Greenspan and what's my easy, people that get me excited, because you need that motivation. And then last and not least, I'm not going to force religion on anyone. I'm a spiritual person, but you need some type of spiritual grounding to do this work. You need to have a conversation with the universe. And I pray this doesn't sound quirky, but there is nothing that you do of yourself alone. Nothing. And people, if COVID showed us anything, it's the fact that, and my grandfather told me this, Dionne, our world has turned to so much of an individual. It's about, Dionne, how I'm going to get to the top, what grind do I need to do? Where before, it was about the collective. It really was about the village. It wasn't about what was going to be best for Deray. It's like, well, how is this going to affect the village, right? Deray's decision, how is that going to affect those around him? And that's where we need to get back to. And I feel like COVID reminded us of that. You can't outrun people. We need people. So yes, I would say get some strength in your arsenal for when those days get hard, and a spiritual grounding to know that you're not by yourself.
Thank you. The village that we all need as not just kids, but some adults need their own village because they need some help just to direct them. So thank you for answering all questions that I have given you, but there are some student questions. So all the students that are watching or listening right now, there should be a Q&A section that you can go to. So if you could just type your questions in there, and I'll be happy to ask the panel.
Brittany, you should run for mayor. Have you ever ran for mayor? That's one of the questions in the thing. I'm looking.
No, it's not.
Ray, you want to do it? You up for it?
That's not what.
Been there, done that. Been there, done that.
Oh, yes.
Not
Hey.
So,
Hey Nina, so we have some questions in the chat. Thanks everybody for sharing some of their own experiences. One great question we have at the top is, do you love doing your job?
Yeah. I think the saying, what is it, when you have a job that you like, you never do it again? That's a lie. When you have a job that you like, you do it all of the time, 365. So my problem with liking my job too much is that I have no work-life balance, because it doesn't stop. So I love my job a lot, but it just doesn't stop either.
I'm going to go with Brittany. I have 3 children under the age of 9. My son is 9, and my twins just turned 7. And it really is a balance because, we live with our phones, right? And it gets to a point as a mother, as a wife, you never want your children to grow up and they're like sitting on some psychiatrist's couch, like my mommy was always on the phone trying to save the world. And so it's one of those things of it has to be involve those around you in your work. I do find that to be helpful, just so you don't feel like you're leaving anyone out, but it does the balance. The balance is necessary.
Yeah, I like my work. Hopefully people won't be having to do this work at some point. So hopefully like we will do it well enough in our time so that people behind us will not have to fight. So I'm excited about getting to that place where we're like, okay, that was wild, we did it, and Lord knows it's a wrap.
Love that. Another question that I've received is, how does it feel coming this far and accomplishing something that you had always promised?
I'm gonna say for me, I have not, right? So it's an everyday thing for me, like storytelling and trying to show the best of everything around you. It never stops for me. And to be honest, maybe it's the Aries in me. There's still so much more, you know, to be done, that I think it's my responsibility to be a part of it. And so maybe that's what keeps us from never resting on our laurels, because we're always, you know, pushing forward. But it's never done for me. I'm always going to tell stories. It's always a story to be told.
And one more question. What is your dream? Like, I know we've all talked about what we've accomplished so far, but as a kid, what was your dream? Was it to get to this point in your life, or was it to just make a change? There are some kids who really do dream of change and don't know how to start, but how did you start? I guess we could go with Mr. Deray.
So for me, student government was really important. I was a youth organizer really early with Youth as Resources, and I was in student government and a host of other things in the community that were really powerful. But I actually didn't have a lot of dreams. I didn't know a ton of people around me who had done things after school, like after 17 or 18. So I didn't go into it being like, oh, I really want to get a job there, or like, I want this to be my career. Like, school was the only thing I knew. Like, that was sort of the biggest thing that anybody had done, would be like finish high school and go to college. Like, I honestly had no other ideas. So, and those were big goals for me. I was like, I want to graduate from high school. I want to get into college. Like, that was as far as I had planned when I was young. It wasn't until I went to college that I was like, oh, I should probably think about like what work I want to do, or like, you know, any of that stuff. So I hope that young people today, that we are starting a conversation about their passions and your passions and your career, or like what you want to do with your time, much earlier than it started with me, because it was really late. I just didn't. I wanted to be alive, and I wanted to like graduate from high school and college. Those were my only goals when I was a kid. So I hope that we're expanding that conversation for a newer generation.
Similar. I wanted to be like Bill Science Guy since I was in first grade, because I wanted to make stuff blow up, because I was very bored and I had like a temper problem and I fought a lot. And so when I left, I went to Poly as well. When I left Poly, my goal was to never come back to Baltimore, which is why I laugh a lot at these stories. Because I knew I was going to like make six figures, call it a day, and like never look back at the city. And I think that's a lot of people's mindset sometimes. What made me come back was really, again, like just growing up, wanting to see more kids look like me do better in the industry and field. When I was in my first position, I was confused for admin assistant, which made me upset. And so a part of the work that I do, or I've been doing, has been making sure that like Black people have a place in STEM, and we kind of like reshape the industry. And all of that has been challenging, but it's really now, you know, I didn't plan on creating B360. It's just a new adaptation of how I use like my STEM brain for solving problems, but also the evil genius side of me for solving problems. And Dionne, stop laughing. And then, you know, one day I won't be the forefront person of B360. My goal is to be able to pass it to the riders so they can own it, you know, and to keep growing it. And I may be doing something else in the same realm of making like equitable decisions. Like maybe I'll become like a philanthropist and a VC funder to fund more solutions. And so I think it just keeps growing and evolving, but it's because very early on, again, I didn't really listen to people tell me the no's, and I had my mind made up that I was going to be successful no matter what. And I think that's in all Baltimore City school students is, again, the challenges may confront us, but the success stories are already inside of us waiting to be birthed and heard.
And looking at the time, I'll try to make mine very quick. Similar to what Deray and Brittany have stated, like there wasn't like no one sat down with me and was, talking about the doctor, the lawyer, I just knew the expectations that I was supposed to graduate from high school and from college, and that my family was expecting this from me. Oh, and I had to graduate in 4 years. There was no fresh, 5 years. Dionne has to graduate in 4. I will say this. I was very close to my aunt growing up, and people in my family compared me to her a lot. And I lost her. She was brilliant. She was a bright, shining star, right? And got caught up with the wrong people, fell in love with the wrong guy, got addicted to drugs, and her life was taken from her. And that was unsettling for me going into middle school and have lost someone so violently, taken so quickly. So I actually felt it was my responsibility to bring some light back, right? So it's a saying that older folks use, don't take my bragging rights. So when your parents, when you come into this world, like no mother wants to go to work and be like, yeah, and Nina had to bail out of jail again. And Nina, she F. Like your mother wants to go and talk about, yep, Nina graduated top of her class, she's CEO. So you don't want to take your family and your friends' bragging rights, like that you want them to have something to be proud of, to talk about with you. So I'm going to be honest, I think that was my motivating factor through middle school, high school, college, the fact that I didn't want to embarrass the people around me. And then to Deray's point, once I got into college and got to meet, access different people, different experiences, get to hear different challenges, I started to see how the gift that I have could probably play in this, arena. But for me, it was just making sure that I brought respect to our name, because that's what was preaching. All we have is our name. You hear Joyner, I don't want to hear Joyner in the jail. I want to hear Joyner in you know what I'm saying? So that was my motivation.
Well, thank you all for being so open and vulnerable with me, and with everybody else here. I really do appreciate you guys taking the time to answer all questions and just talking about yourselves and telling your story. Right now, I'm going to pass it off to Mr. Rashad, and yeah, just thank you again. So.
Awesome. Nina, great job moderating and diving deep into with our panelists again. Panelists, thank you all for sharing your story, for being your true selves and just exemplifying what Be More Me is, and just being yourselves, being authentic to your purpose, and just continuously growing. And we definitely see that in our younger generation of scholars that are online, along with Nina herself. So again, thank you all for exemplifying exactly what Be More Me is and doing your part of being part of my Be More. I think we all have a part in making Baltimore better by starting with self first. Without further ado, I want to pass the mic on to my great colleague and one of our unsung heroes that helped put this great experience together. Yeah, I like that hashtag, Nina for Mayor. I love that. We're going to continue on. And I want to pass the mic to one of our unsung heroes, a visionary behind the Be More Me, Miss Nakia Drummond, who's going to excite our young people with an expansion of another activity and information that you may all need to know. So without further ado, Miss Nakia, it's up on you.
Thank you, Rashad. I cannot take credit for Be More Me, only for the idea of the speaker series and for knowing amazing people like Dionne, Deray, and Brittany, who are willing to show up for the city and show up for students all the time. So thank you all again for being here. And thank you, Nina. You are amazing. Nina for Mayor. I'm with it. I'll be a part of your campaign. Okay, so moving on. Let's go to the next slide, Tyler. So, okay, what was your, I'm sorry, you were at the right one. What was your biggest takeaway today, students? You heard a lot of ideas, a lot of thoughts, a lot of messages from our speakers. And it's really important that every time you're somewhere that your time is meaningfully spent and that you take something away. So if you don't take something away from today, shame on you, because so much was shared. But I know you did. We know you did. We want to know what you took away from today. So we've got an activity planned for you. We are behind a little bit, so we are going to crunch all of this down. Everywhere you see 5 minutes is going to be 3 minutes. So this whole activity is going to be 9 minutes.
So congratulations to, it was very close, to the Henderson Hopkins School for the winning message, which is be self-confident in your words.
Yay. Congrats to the Henderson Hopkins crew. Which student was that? If the teacher knows what student it was who came up with that message, or the student who wrote that message, can jot your name in. We'd love to know which student, but let's throw that next slide up, Tyler, so that I can share this major announcement on what that means for the winning group. So this winning message, we are partnering for the Be More Me Speaker Series with Mess in a Bottle. It's a Baltimore-based t-shirt brand where she puts messages on t-shirts and puts them in bottles. This is a woman-owned, Black woman-owned business in Baltimore. It's a national, international business, and they are partnering with city schools to share your message. So that winning message is going to be put on a t-shirt, and every student from that Henderson Hopkins group who is here today will receive a t-shirt with that message. And that's the winning ticket. So that is what our prize is for today. Every student from that school, or not from that school, every student from that class who participated today and the teacher will receive a t-shirt with that winning message, and also our amazing student moderator for today. So congratulations. Christina Ross will be in touch with your teacher on the timeline and everything with that. So it'll be a couple weeks before you get it. She has to create it. But that is our partnership. So you will get that t-shirt with that very, very special message. That is the kickoff to our Be More Me Speaker Series. Congratulations to the Henderson Hopkins crew. And I will turn it back over to Rashad to close us out right on time. Rashad, you are muted. Let me unmute you.
Hey, that's pretty lit. Congratulations to Henderson Hopkins, and just thank you all for all of our students at all of our schools for participating in there. That was the most voted on one, but the rest of those messages were right in line as well and should be on a t-shirt. So when you get your t-shirts, make sure to wear them proudly, because that is a part of your own voice, something that you all came together with a consensus to saying that that's the message that we want to lift up. So congratulations again. We want to take this time out to make a few acknowledgments. Thank the panelists, thank our student moderator, thank you colleagues and everyone else for being a part and making this experience entertaining, engaging, and informative. For our educators that are online, please be on the lookout for an email that will come from more than likely Christina Ross about a feedback survey. Please look out for the email with the survey link for you all to complete, and make sure to complete it in due time so that we can grow and make the Be More Me Speaker Series even greater. So again, please be on the lookout and make time to complete the feedback survey. And for our young people and all others, I just want to say thank you all for, again, being a part of the Be More Me Speaker Series. And feel free to look out for our next session that will be held on November 17th. And that session in this theme was, how does one contribute to the narrative of a city? How do you, similar to what Nina mentioned earlier, how do you personally as an individual contribute to the narrative of a city? And our beloved city is Baltimore. So again, thank you all for joining in. Thank you for joining us on a Winning Wednesday. Thank you for making time to be here together. Thank you for continuing to be more. Thank you for continuing to lift up and share your narrative and your story. Again, continue to reminder to do the feedback survey and look out for our next speaker series that will be held on November 17th. And our question is, how do you contribute to the narrative of the city? This is Bmore Me. This is the speaker series. We are out. We want to thank you all again. It has been a pleasure. It has been an honor. It has been a fun and engaging opportunity. Remember to be more. Remember to be more. And remember to be more of yourself. Y'all take care. Have a good day. And remember, we're all learning together.
Have a great day. Thanks, Rashad.
No diggity, no doubt.